This meeting is being recorded.
You want to wait 2 more minutes, Jen, or that's about it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
32.
All righty.
Meow.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Cuff to lead us through our agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a brief agenda tonight. I'm going to let Jamie Doyle's here from PFM along with Joshua Martinez, but I will share with everyone, Jamie has a hard stop around 6:45-ish. She has another meeting, so I think she's going to talk about the options we have for financing for the potential work we want to do on Kerrfield coming forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie, let her do her presentation, then we'll slide back into the regular agenda.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm going to go ahead and screen share if that's okay. And this is an update based on the most recent information that we've received from your architect. And so just to go through the first couple of pages quickly, I'll focus on the bottom chart. You know, interest rates on the far right-hand side have begun to trend upward a little bit in anticipation of the Federal Reserve Committee action at their March meeting coming up. That's already pretty much factored into the market, so we're not too super concerned about that. The next page is just your debt summary, nothing new on there. The next page is your updated overall program. And you will notice Kerrfield in column 4 at $6 million. So before that was a larger number and it addressed athletic improvements in a more general fashion. Now it's focused in just on Kerrfield. And likewise, we got revised numbers both downward, so lower numbers for Evans and East Lansdowne as the 3 projects that you'd like to focus on first. We also updated the district cash in column 14. That's your ESSER money. Previously, we had that in there for $8 million, and now it's in for $12.8 million. So all of those things make the overall borrowing plan decrease, which is good. You know, you want to borrow the least amount of money possible and still accomplish all of your capital improvement goals. The next page is just a lift out of that draw schedule specific to the first 3 projects that you might tackle. Again, Kerrfield, Evans, and East Lansdowne. And the point of this was to show if we make the first borrowing in calendar year 2022, just under $10 million to get the lowest possible interest rates, those bank qualified interest rates that I always talk about. There's your $12.8 million of ESSER money. And then we're simply showing The next borrowing in calendar year 2023 also being just under 10 million and bank qualified. And you can see if we did those two borrowings in conjunction with your ESSER money, it would not only pay for all three of these projects, but it would also leave you an ending balance of about 7.5 million there at the bottom of column 13. And basically that would be seed money toward your high school project if that's the next project that you end up deciding to tackle after these three. The next page should look familiar. This is the 8-step plan that we shared with you before. It's just been adjusted to reflect the draw schedule that I just went over, and in particular focus in on what the initial borrowings could look like, taking those first three projects on. And again, you'll notice the overall borrowing amount has decreased, and so has the millage impact or equivalent in column 28. So now this plan overall is down to about 5 mils, which is good. And again, that's in part because the first three projects are at a lower number, and the ESSER money we're now showing at 12.8 million. So both of those move the needle in the right direction. The last page just shows a sample motion that you could pass to authorize the finance team to proceed and get the paperwork in order just for that first, I'll call it $10 million borrowing. We'll come back and have this conversation many, many more times, and each and every time before we do another step in the plan. So this would just be for step 1. And the sample timeline at the bottom of the page, you can see tonight's a committee meeting, but if you were so inclined to pass the motion above at your voting meeting on February 28th, boy, September, I'm really rushing the year, on February 28th, we could be back at your March 28th voting meeting with your maximum parameters resolution. That's said paperwork that I'm describing. And that would put us in a position to actually lock in interest rates and on that first 9,995,000 as early as April 5th. And that would put settlement around May 10th. So settlement is when the money would actually show up into your construction fund and be available to pay invoices and vendors. So I will pause there and entertain any questions that you have.
Jamie, can you go back to that page right there? Thank
Yep.
you. So how much this is 5 mils over 10 years? Is that correct?
Well, it's 5 mils over 8 years.
Okay. And that includes a borrowing of a total of 170 million?
The borrowing would be closer to 158 million on that top principal
Okay.
line.
All right,
You add in your ESSER money to get to that $170 million number.
got it. And this does not take into effect any plan con that we are advocating for or anything like that?
Correct.
And last question to Jeff, could we do such a motion before we commit to a tax increase?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time, Jen? I didn't
Yeah,
hear.
could we pass such a motion on the timeline that Jamie suggests before we commit to a tax increase? So if June 30th comes around and we don't agree to a tax increase, would we still be able to fund the project, that money?
So let me rewind. So I do have the motion. I understand. I get your question now. So I do have the motion on for this month's agenda.
Right,
So your question is if we pass the motion and then there's a decide not to make a tax increase, well, yes, you can do it. What's going to happen is your debt increase, your debt service is still going to be higher. So
Right.
you're going to have to absorb that cost, which will eventually possibly put you in a deficit or put something else in jeopardy. No, I don't want to use jeopardy, but it'll cause a change elsewhere. Is what
okay.
it will do.
And how much will that money that we would tentatively approve in May cost us? That
Oh,
first,
I have it on the slide in the thing. So my quick, I went into my chart. So I think it's 0.30 mils. So
Correct.
on my chart for a house, average house assessed at 125,000, I had that at roughly $39 increase.
no, right, but no, I'm asking how much would it cost the district? That 0.3, is that $800,000 because a mill is 1.2 million now?
So it would be the increase between 2.6, hold on, I'm sorry. 2.6, so that's 400 to go up to 3.285. So it would be the difference. I'm sorry, you can't see my mouse. I apologize. I'm using my mouse. Like, can't you see my mouse? Hold on.
To simplify it on the page that I'm screen sharing,
Right.
in column 12, the new debt service equates to $478,370 there in column 12 that would
Right.
affect coming budget.
Right.
And if you look back at column 11 for a second, even if you do nothing, because you had some refunding savings in the current year, your regular old debt portfolio is going to go from 2.6 million up to 2.8 million in the upcoming budget year anyway. So 200,000 is your old debt going back to normal, if you will, after the refunding savings go away, and 478,000 is the new $9,995 borrowing.
So that would be a total of 678,000?
Yep.
Okay. School board directors, do you have any questions? I do not see any.
So Jen, just as a reminder, there is a motion that's on, I believe it's on page 5. There's a motion in this month's agenda for this.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay,
You will notice all the dates say or later after them. So, if you don't choose to move this fast, that's fine too. We always just like to show you the fastest that you can lock things in if that is your desire.
Got it.
okay, I have a question.
Go on, Ms. Richardson.
What percentage are we basing on tax raising? I mean, what, when we go out to say it's a 2.5, 2.6, I mean, what are we looking to say that this is the amount that we need to raise to offset this?
Well, at least right now, you know that it's going to be a 0.3 mil increase, at least as a minimum, to accommodate this borrowing. We haven't got to the point where we have all the other factors weighed in, but at least right now, you know that what we're talking about this evening, will be a portion of that.
Okay. And a question I asked for Jamie, if we do it by April the 5th, are we looking at around the same percentage rate as, I mean, we don't know what the market is, it'll fluctuate, but will we be locked in around the same rate as of now?
Well, we're always a little conservative in our estimates, knowing that we're in a rising interest rate environment. So our goal is to illustrate a worst case scenario to you. So yes, my hope would be that we come in better than what I'm showing you on the prior page, the colorful page. So we're assuming that rates are going to increase over the next couple of months when we're projecting the numbers you see in column 12.
Any other questions, school board directors or anyone else? All right. If none, thank you, Jamie. You may sprint to your next meeting.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Jamie.
you.
Thanks, Joshua. Okay, so I'll jump back into our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr.
And where was here I am, got it, share. Okay, here we go. So I'll jump back into the slideshow. And just to refresh, as I stated before, the approximate increase for what Jamie had just discussed is approximately $39. So next, we're going to jump over to a quick summary of our local revenues for this year. So this year, and this is as of February, I'm like Jamie, I want to say September. As of February 15th, we've collected $45 million. We budgeted 45.4. So we have a slight off by 278,000. If you remember last time we were here, we were off by almost 600,000. So we're at 99.4% of our collection rate, what we predicted. Compared to last year where we actually had a good year, but keep in mind last year, our budget was about almost $1.3 million lower than what we were last year. So in total, if you're not sure if my mouse is showing, we actually collected $100,000, slightly more than $100,000 than we did last year. but we budgeted more as well. So right now we're currently at 99.4% collection rate versus budget. By the end of this week, I will turn the lien list over to the county. It's due by the 28th. And as the note says here, roughly, unless we have other additional revenues above and beyond than what we predicted, the offset will come out of fund balance. But as you'll see in the next screen, we actually had some positives thus far in collections. So here I'm going to talk about transfer taxes. So I'm sorry, before I go to transfer, anyone have a question on current real estate before I go to transfer? I apologize. Hearing none. Okay. Transfer taxes, I'll just give a quick, if anyone doesn't know what this is, anytime properties are sold between one owner to the other, there is a 1% transfer tax that comes up. We actually split it with the local municipality. And you'll see this year, we're actually ahead of where we budgeted in transfer taxes. And I think, and I'm pretty sure this is because of the one hit in Darby. This is the property, I believe the construction property that happened down there. So we had that one hit in Darby, which actually has put us really ahead of where we were last year and ahead of our budgeted figures. So this is a positive, so this is good. And considering that we're in February, we still have a couple months to go in this fiscal year. So we're looking for that offset of the transfer taxes to cover some of our real estate deficit there. Okay.
I need to check the properties, the apartments that changed hands in Lansdowne. I'm hoping that they're not just managers changing hands.
Let me check remind me of the months after this meeting or tomorrow, and we'll double check it, because I know the one we had one outlier payment in Darby, so I know what that one is.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Next will be our delinquents. Again, same thing. I think that property had to clean up some of their delinquents. So you'll see right now we're actually at a better place than we were last year as far as delinquents. We're at 65% collection rate versus the prior year is where we were. Even though we
still under budget.
Well, no, we're still on the budget. We're still early in the year. I just wanted to show this is a snapshot compared to last year's collection is what I wanted to show.
Got it.
So right now we're at 65%. And keep in mind, we lowered the budget delinquents a little bit last year, but nonetheless, we still have collected more at this particular point, even though we lowered the budgeted amount for delinquents. So I wanted to give a quick snapshot because those are the three areas that have the most, I'll say, volatility or have the most fluctuation: current real estate, transfers, and delinquents. I wanted to show where we were as a snapshot before we get into the deeper part of start doing budget stuff for the next couple of months. Okay, are there any questions on local revenues? Hearing none. Okay, and this is the same slide that I used last year. We did a mid-year summary as of end of January of where we were in the major expenditure function areas. And I compared this to last year, and we're actually, when I looked at last year's figures, we're basically percentage-wise on the same track as we were last year. So that's a good thing. The one thing we're keeping an eye on, which I do not have a chart here, I'll have it in the next Budget Advisory Council meeting, is to measure our charter school costs versus last year. One thing I did notice, and when I started looking at doing some research into charter schools, our charter school enrollment spiked last year in the COVID year. So this year it's down some. It's not down to pre-COVID numbers, but it is down. So we'll have that information coming up in the next meeting in March is what we'll have. But this is where we stand right now with our expenditures. We're still on track. We're still on target from where we were before.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, is support services, does that include charters?
No, charters are included in 1,000 function.
Okay. And so why do we have $8 million available in support services? Is that due to a lack of personnel in that category?
No, oops, sorry, let me go back. No, so actually the $8 million is there, because keep in mind, you still have payments left for transportation, as well as Airmark. That's where a lot of those expenses are going to lie in.
Wouldn't those be under encumbrances?
Not necessarily, no, because I didn't put a PO out there. So we actually get a bill, so we pay them direct. We don't have a PO out there for those.
So under support services, that's transportation, Airmark, facilities and food. And what else? Just the big buckets.
Those are the bigger ones right there. Those are the biggest ones right there, sitting out there.
Thank you. Do any school board directors have a question on this slide? All right, thank you.
Okay,
I want to acknowledge Ms. Hopkins and Ms. Ivory for joining us. Sorry I didn't do it sooner.
sorry. Okay, good. So the
Okay.
next area, I'm going to turn over to Mary Agnew. She's going to talk about some E-rate bids. And the items that she's going to talk about, they're actual, and Mary will talk about it, but we actually have a motion on the agenda this month, and Mary will talk about what it is and what we're looking to do.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Agnew.
Good evening. So the two things that I'm going to be reviewing tonight are
We can't hear you, Mary.
I think she froze.
Um,
No problem. So I'll jump in real quick. So it's good. So as many people know, we started using the DCIU for a lot of our technology needs and helping us and getting everything back. Oh, Mary, you're back. I'm sorry.
oh, okay, sorry. Did I go out? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
We lost.
oh, okay.
Start from the beginning. You're okay. No problem. You're muted yourself, though.
Sorry. There's two different contracts. They're dependent upon the two different categories that are covered under E-rate. So what E-rate does is it covers internet connectivity for school districts and for libraries. So there's category 1 and category 2. So that's why there's two different ones that are due at different times. So the first one that you're looking at right now is a PEPM mini grant from Pennsylvania, and it's for networking equipment within buildings. So it's going to be switches, wireless equipment, and power service, power supply, uninterrupted power supply, to keep that running within buildings. So this is the first category, and if we submit this, we will get so it's really important that we follow the process exactly, which is what we're doing. And so we have to have this approved by a certain date. So what we've done is there's a couple of different steps that you do for the process. You have to figure out what equipment you need, which we have been doing. And then you open up the bid process, which we did, and the bid process concluded today. And then we are doing tours of the buildings tomorrow with the bidders. All the bidders will submit bids for us. And then according to the E-rate program, we have to pick the
You froze again, Mary. Do you want to turn off your video and try to give yourself a little bit more bandwidth?
I'm not sure.
Can you finish her sentence, Jeff?
I'm about to. I was waiting. I was giving her a minute to jump back in. So what we did. So actually, so to accommodate the bidding process, we're going through this, and we're in a timeline, or we're in a crunch that we have to get this approved on the 28th. So there is a motion here for these items to be approved on the 28th for the one bid, and there's a second motion which I have linked in there as well. We're going to do the same process in March, but the actual March one has a different.
I'm back, sorry.
Okay, good. So the March one has a different timeline. So the March, we're going to approve at the committee meeting on the March 21st. So, but what we did here, and in the motion, because a lot of people aren't familiar with E-rate, we have a summary here which describes, and Mary was doing this, it describes what E-rate is and what it's all about and what it does. But the first one are for switches and wireless, and the second one in March, I believe, is for connectivity and a couple other.
It's for, correct, yeah, it's for connectivity. It's anything outside the building. So it's for networking wiring. So that's why there's two different
motions.
Ones that are being submitted. Yep.
Great.
So you'll see the motion here actually has blanks, number to be determined. We will have this information by Tuesday morning. Tuesday report, just so we stay in compliance with the laws. Tuesday's agenda is going to look just like this. we can provide you what the numbers are Tuesday in another document, but come for the following Monday on the 28th, we'll have the numbers populated in here.
Great.
And you said the bids are being opened tomorrow?
The bids for the PEPM, which is the one you're looking at now, that closed today at 3. And the people that bidded are coming tomorrow to go through the buildings to see what we need, like what work we need done.
Great. And does this touch all buildings?
It's every building that requires
Every building that requires what, Jeff?
I wasn't that deep in it. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Okay. Hey, Mary, can you turn off your video and then turn on your audio so that, because I'm really clueless. I have no clue what's going on
Oh,
here
okay.
in order for me to do any kind of voting or anything. So can you just kind of dummy it down a little bit so I can get an understanding of what this is all about?
Yeah, so our district, the networking that we use, because we've had an increase in Chromebooks, but also due to the, so we have more devices on our networks. And we also have, like some of the equipment is years old, so it needs to be updated. So what we're doing is we're going through E-rate, because with E-rate, we will get 85% of it covered by the government for switches within the buildings, and outside of the buildings, we'll get 90% covered. So it'll be a big cost savings for the district. And so what we've done is the tech department has gone around to the various buildings and done heat mapping to see where the wireless access points don't really work well. And so they're the ones that we're replacing. So it does hit every building except for Park Lane, which did not require, like when we did the heat mapping, all their access points were fine. So it's every building that, you know, when we mapped it out, that the network was weak in certain spots. So that's how we determined what buildings are getting it.
Okay. So I also have another question. So your bidders, how many bidders did we get? 3?
No, we have like 20 something.
And out of those bidders, are any of them minority owned or women owned, or have a employee rate of having a considerable amount of women or minorities?
So with the bidding closing today at 3, we're going through right now the different companies that have put in, but with the E-rate, you need to go with the lowest bidder that can do the job. So that's one of the stipulations of the program. It needs to be the lowest bid. Feasible bid. Like it needs to be the lowest bid that would actually be able to complete the job.
Lowest responsible bid,
Yeah, lowest responsible bid.
correct. Ms. Hopkins, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, because I'm still not understanding what does that mean.
So that means we need to take the low bid, period.
No matter whether it's women owned or minority owned,
And
or their rate of how many employees they have.
Right. So yes,
And-
the answer to your question is yes. So E-rate is very strict on that. And that actually, I was just reading something on them. E-rate, basically your highest, when you evaluate, your highest weighted consideration has to be the cost. They don't have they have no factors that weigh in any type of who owns it or so forth. It's the cost that E-rate is concerned with, or the government's concerned with.
Oh, so this is like a grant, a government grant?
Mhm.
The money is federally offset to the government.
Okay.
And
anyone,
the reason our numbers are there are because our numbers are based off of our free and reduced, because we are a CEP district, and because of our numbers. So that's what the number, that's why the 85% comes in, because we have such a high rate of free and reduced kids.
Okay.
and
Thank you.
how much do we pay on the dollar, Jeff? For
The
E-rate?
85% discount.
Yeah, so we pay 15 cents on the dollar when we go through the E-rate system.
Right, for the inside the building equipment, for the outside the building equipment, we actually have a 90%
Yo,
discount. So we would only pay 10 cents on the dollar for that, the wiring itself.
Okay.
all right, does anyone else have any questions?
Sorry, let me jump back in here. I'll go back. So as I stated before, am I still muted? No, I'm not muted.
No, you're good.
The first motion I showed you is for the 28th. The second motion, which is a separate connection, which I'm sorry, let me share. There we go. The second motion, which Mary talked about, we will approve at the committee meeting on the 21st of March to make sure we hit the dates so we can get everything done. So I'll make sure I put that in the updates. I'll make sure everyone is aware that that will be, all meetings are a voting meeting, but that will be a meeting that we will vote on this agreement here, E3 and E4, on the committee meeting on the 21st of March. Okay.
Right, and you mentioned something that reminded me, our committee of the whole is, our committee meeting is Tuesday, not Monday.
Correct. It'll be the 22nd on Tuesday. Correct. Okay.
All right.
So good. So looking at future meetings, we're going to rev back up our budget advisory council meetings. They will be on March 17th, as well as April 21st. Again, I'm going to encourage all board members, even though there's a budget advisory council meeting, I'm encouraging all board members to participate. There will be the information here that I think will benefit everyone involved. We will have our next BF committee meeting beyond the budget advisory committee will be May 19th. We may have another meeting in between there so that everyone is aware, just to get everyone caught up. For those who did not attend the budget advisory council meetings, we will have meetings in between, one in between April 21st and May 19th to make sure everyone is caught up and everyone is aware of where we stand. As we did in past years, our final preliminary budget, we're going to approve at the board meeting on May the 23rd. And then the actual approval will come on June the 27th. All meetings will start at 6:30. There's a link here for the budget advisory council members. We're still missing about 2 people, but that we will progress forward. I will contact those people next week and let them know what the dates are and how we will attack the budget going forward.
Great, and it looks like only East Lansdowne and Colwyn are missing advisory council members. So if those 2 reps wanted to fill those slots, I'm assuming they could, correct?
Yes, by all means.
Great. Any questions, anyone? None?
Cool.
Am I missing any hands? All right, well, hearing none, if anyone wants to reach out or thinks of a question after this meeting, please reach out to myself or Jeff. And be safe out there.
Yep. And
Good
we
night,
will see
Dawn.
everyone we'll see everyone on Tuesday at 6:30.
Yep, thank you so much.
Take care. Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.